Hey there, my name's Niandra, I am a Grandmaster Mercy main, and in this video I'll be giving some tips for playing against each other hero. Alright, let's get started with DPS. Against Ashe, after eliminating an ally, she will likely throw dynamite at the soul if she expects you to res. Because of this, it can sometimes be worth waiting a moment or keeping it in mind as you go for the revive. Dynamite does 100 damage over 5 seconds, meaning 20 per second. Now, at the time of this recording, during Valkyrie, the support passive is constantly active, which heals for 15 per second. This means Valkyrie won't completely nullify Dynamite, but it will bring it down to 5 damage per second, which isn't bad. Against Cassidy, allies stuck by his magnetic grenade start flashing. This is pretty easy to look out for, so I'll usually snap my beam onto them once I notice. Besides that, I mean, you know the drill, be cautious about flying high out in the open, especially when Cass hasn't used High Noon in a while. Some players will not hesitate to solo ult a Mercy. Like, keep in mind, a lot of maps have terrain high up that you can make use of. Valkyrie doubles your beam length so you don't have to play close. And last of all, when you GA while off the ground during Valk, you can look down and press jump to slingshot downwards, which can break line of sight if you're fast enough. Some Cassidy players will just let their High Noon run out, and there's no voice line for this, which can leave Mercy unsure if she's able to move. However, there is now a ticking sound during his ult that lets you know it's still going, so listen out for that, or shots or ability usage that tells you it's over. Against Bastion, very simply, avoid long guardian angels in front of him and damage boost your high damage DPS to burst him down. Also, keep in mind Bastion's crit Orisa is on his back in turret form, so if you're able to damage boost allies that can hit that, go for it, but don't play dumb to do so, you know? As for his ultimate, try to keep Guardian Angel ready, because if he sees you use it, especially with a slingshot or super jump, he will be more likely to target you. Ideally, you want to kinda keep in place until you see all 3 bombs get marked, then move away accordingly. Against Echo, 1. Be mindful of your teammates' health and try to keep everyone above critical so they can't be beamed down so easily. 2. Be mindful of the Sky and Echo's position so she doesn't catch you off guard with her stickies into beam combo. If you have an ally that's below half health and you are healthy, you could try to body block and tank the beam for them since it won't hurt you as much, but obviously this carries a lot of risks. Besides that, when Echo duplicates someone, try to burn them down ASAP with heavy damage boost usage and play around their ult accordingly. Against Genji, learning to play around his ultimate is kind of like a skill test. Genji gets a dash reset after activating his ultimate and upon elimination, so planning around those will be key. Many Genjis will dash ult dash, meaning he can get you in the sky. When you think he has ult, you want to keep an eye on him and keep distance from both him and your second support, then time your GAs with his dash to keep away. Besides that, if you're mid to low rank especially, consider damage boosting lock-on or beam heroes against Genji because he can't deflect it. Plus, those types of damage generally don't require much aim, so there's less chance to miss against this hypermobile character. Against Hanzo, when I suspect he has ultimate ready, I am a little bit careful about positioning up against certain walls because if he uses it on the other side, I may not have much time to react. Besides that, remember that you can fly through his dragon like this and you'll take roughly between 80 and 120 damage. That's not ideal, but sometimes it is better to just tank it rather than remain in a position that's even worse. Also, Hanzo's Sonic Arrow emits a very quiet humming sound, and I have found it way easier to hear in Overwatch 2.
Hello.
5, 4,
Hello
3.
there.
Against Junkrat, he has a pretty nasty combo where he chucks his mine and then follows it up with his primary fire. If you do find yourself hit by said mine, try to Guardian Angel away immediately to avoid that follow-up shot. Keep in mind you can hold down your GA key without a valid target in your crosshair and you'll automatically fly once there is one. This can also be useful if you get trapped, just look at an ally, hold down GA and pray you live through it to immediately fly away once no longer stuck in place. As for Riptire, if I think I can afford to, I will sometimes break my beam and take a step back to hide when I hear the voice line, since it can be a pretty big indicator of my position, and most Junkrats won't be afraid to just solo ult me. If Junkrat uses ult while you're in Valkyrie, you might be able to find where he's hiding and pistol him down because the voice line is somewhat directional. Just be careful about activating ult too close to him or a wall because he'll just immediately blow the tire up. Against Mei, if she walls off your beam target, you can quickly GA to them before your beam breaks and press crouch to super jump on top and help them from there. That being said, be careful about looking just directly downwards and cutting your camera view off from players at a distance. As for Blizzard, you can Guardian Angel through it without being frozen as long as you spend very little time pausing in it to slingshot. Since it takes roughly 2 seconds to freeze someone, you can stand in Blizzard towards the end and it'll finish before you freeze. Also keep in mind it is LOS based, but will be drawn through walls regardless, so sometimes you don't even need to be worried about walking in it. Against Pharah, damage boost your hit scans as much as possible, especially if she's also being pocketed. If you are confident and swift, Pharah can be a pretty good pistol target during Valk and try to attack her from above. Generally, it's easier to aim downwards, and if Pharah fights back, the rockets that miss you will go into the sky rather than towards the ground where they could hit someone else. Also keep in mind, while in the air, tapping Angelic Descent keeps Mercy's wings closed while holding the button opens them up. Open wings makes Mercy more vulnerable to splash damage and easier to hit in pharmacy duels, so remember to tap instead. Against Reaper, especially in mid to low ranks, watch out for him wraithing towards a cluster of teammates because that's a pretty good indication he's about to ult. Take advantage of Mercy's ability to do her job while looking around, especially if you notice him missing from a fight, and prioritize damage boost on allies with range. Reaper really cannot do much if you're one step ahead and do not let him get close. Against Sojourn, her snare does 60 damage per second and lasts a total of 3.5 seconds. This means it does a total of 210 damage, and obviously I'm not saying just sit in one for fun, but also don't be so afraid that you're never willing to just fly through it to end up in a better position, especially if you're healing someone. I'm not super sure on this one, but it could also mean that reses where you jump or super jump are actually worse because of how GA stays active for longer, so you can't move away as fast. Whereas if you just GA normally and res, you can just immediately reposition afterwards. Against Soldier, like with Cassidy, try to avoid flying out in the open, especially when you think he has ult. Now you can hide behind teammates to throw the tactical visor tracker off, but generally only do this with your tanks. Besides that, when my health is especially low, I am a little bit cautious about playing super close to corners because of his rocket splash damage. Generally, I will try to take a step back instead. Against Sombra, if you get hacked during Guardian Angel, your flight is just cancelled. However, if you get hacked while super jumping, you will keep your upwards momentum. This means if you see Sombra trying to hack you, it might be worth hitting crouch to get to high ground or make yourself harder to hit. Also keep in mind that breaking line of sight while being hacked cancels it, so try to play near corners or cover that you can make use of. Besides that, EMP also has a short delay between the animation and voice line starting and the effect being applied. This means with fast enough reaction time, you can Valk in response. Against Symmetra, look out for turret placement that the rest of your team might not notice, and keep in mind your other support probably can't heal through shields. This means you may want to adjust your playstyle and or position when Photon Barrier is active. Symmetra's turrets take 2 pistol shots or 1 melee hit to be destroyed, so if they're really stuck to someone, it can be worth just dealing with it as Mercy. Also keep in mind that Symmetra is very popular on certain maps, so for stuff like Lijiang Tower Night Market, I make sure to start the round off as Lucio, speed my team from spawn and switch back so a potential enemy Symmetra doesn't have too much of a lead. Against Torbjorn, damage boost allies with range to take out his turret and be cautious of him flinging his lava behind you with the hopes that you'll back up into it. Against Tracer, try to position behind your team or in a way that puts space between you two. Doing this means she'll either be slow and easy to spot when coming towards you, or she'll have to use her blinks, meaning she can't follow up as easily when you reposition. Exploit Tracer's lack of vertical mobility by repositioning to high ground and breaking sight on her. That last bit is crucial because Tracer's range is good enough that she can still do a lot of damage to a super jumping Mercy. Now if Tracer is not going for you, keep an eye on her regardless because you may need to pocket the ally she does target, especially if it's your other support. Besides that, when stuck with Pulse Bomb, cancel Guardian Angel and stand still to minimize the damage. Against WidowMaker, I try to avoid super jumping fully upwards by pressing the crouch button. Instead, I like to manually reposition my camera to jump lower and spend less time in the air. Although obviously you should mostly be behind cover to give Widow minimum opportunities to even be able to hit you. When Widow eliminates an ally, there's likely 2 scenarios that you need to consider if you're thinking about resurrecting. Either she has sight on the soul, meaning you should look for corners lest you meet the same fate, or she grappled into it, which could just mean it's safe. Besides that, Widow's ultimate lasts for 15 seconds, so if you're good at maths, look at the round timer, subtract 15, and that's when you can start moving freely again. Against D.Va, look out for her boosting towards allies because she'll probably try to burst them down, so it's important to react fast. Also, keep in mind she can eat the healing of a few different characters, so you may need to adjust to that. D.Va is also very good at stopping the support passive health regen from kicking in. Her infinite ammo allows her to just pick at you indefinitely from a distance, so it's crucial to break line of sight on her. Against Doomfist, when he's charging towards me, I love to Guardian Angel and immediately crouch to hop in place and jump over him. As for Meteor Strike, like with Bastion, I generally try to keep in place with Guardian Angel ready to reposition once I know where Doomfist is going to land. Keep in mind, if you are anywhere in that circular ring after he touches down, you get hit with that nasty slowdown that you really want to avoid. Against Junker Queen, like D.Va, be careful of poke damage that stops your health regen from kicking in. Also, her bleed damage is low enough that Valkyrie's constant health regen will cover it if you are in trouble. Against Orisa, one of the best things you can do is look for your DPS that are actively ignoring her in favour of trying to take out the rest of her team and damage boosting them. Besides that, okay, I play a lot of Orisa, and I just want to say, mid-rank Mercies, you gotta keep in mind that Orisa has 2 abilities on pretty short cooldowns that can interrupt your resurrect. It is crucial to use cover, track Orisa to see if she's distracted, or know if her abilities are on cooldown. If you do go for a res during Valkyrie, remember that Mercy can press crouch to descend and space to rise, so keep yourself moving in the limited space you have. Against Ramattra, I honestly think Valkyrie is a pretty solid counter to his ultimate. Your healing can nullify his constant tick damage, plus the double beam length means you can help allies while avoiding it. So hang back, flick between beam states, and burn him down. As for his vortex, I mean, being pulled to the ground should be scary, but honestly it's only really an issue if you're, and say it with me now, treating super jump as positioning instead of using super jump to position. That being said, be cautious about playing the edge of pits because Ramattra can throw his vortex on the ground like this and it can still pull you down. Against Reinhardt, Earthshatter has a very minuscule travel time, meaning if you're towards the back you'll have slightly more time to react. There is also a brief pause between the start of the voice line and the hammer hitting the ground. This means you can actually jump over Earthshatter pretty consistently if your reaction time is good enough by tapping Guardian Angel and then immediately crouching afterwards, as soon as you hear the voice line start. If you are slightly too slow, you can get stunned while launching into the air, which is probably still better than just lying on the floor. Now ideally, Mercy should not be getting caught in shatter in the first place, so make sure you're playing corners or elevated terrain as Earthshatter has a slight vertical height. Plus, make good use of Mercy's beam length to keep distance from teammates. Also watch out for enemy Reinhardt playing more aggressively and using fire strikes less, as those can be indicators that he has shatter ready. Against Roadhog, respect the 20-meter range of his hook like a circle around him. Because Overwatch 2 has less CC, it's a lot easier for him to just push past your teammates to get to you, which he might do while you go for a res that appeared safe, so watch out. Also during Roadhog's ultimate, you can hold space while moving backwards to be pushed back further and take less damage. Against Sigma, when I suspect he has ultimate ready, I try to keep distance from my team, the other support especially, so we can't both be picked up. I then sometimes try to body block my allies by flying to them, briefly hovering in their face and then falling back. Also, many Sigmas will place their shield behind your tank to cut their healing off, which you generally want to be aware of in case you need to adapt. Against Winston, you want to keep track of his position and his jump cooldown because a lot of them will be keeping track of your position and Guardian Angel's cooldown. Many of them will save jump until they see you move first, so it's crucial to have multiple fly paths in mind, especially ones where you don't have to slingshot and therefore can keep your cooldown shorter. If Winston is not going for you, pocket that ally from a distance so his cleave damage can't hit you both. I also like to fly to high ground, jump off it once Winston follows, and then fly back up, knowing that he can't immediately follow up. Against Wrecking Ball, I try to push damage boost hard to minimize the time to kill, especially when he's the last one alive in a fight and trying to stall. Now, I could be wrong here, but from testing, Ball's ground pound will not affect your momentum during Guardian Angel. However, if you get hit while slingshotting, your momentum will just be stopped. Besides that, be careful about lingering near his mines because he may try to boop you into them. Against Zarya, keep asking yourself how long it's been since she last used Grav and if she likely has it now. If the answer is yes, it's really important for you and your team to keep distance from each other, supports especially. If you do find yourself caught in Grav, try to look to an ally outside of it with your Guardian Angel key held down so you automatically fly to them once no longer locked in place. Against Ana, I shouldn't have to tell you not to heal anti-naded allies since the game has a convenient, if slightly buggy sound effect for when you try. What you can do is damage boost your purple ally, count the duration effect in your head, and then switch back to healing at the last moment. Also be wary about sleep dart when going for reses, especially in Valk. For example, in this clip, I know enemy Ana is watching me, so I go near the soul and immediately fly up, which baits out her sleep dart and allows me to go for the revive. Also, you can sort of body block your sleeping allies by standing over their head, but it's both super niche and super risky, especially since you might want them to take damage so they wake up. Against Baptiste, very simply, do not underestimate his ultimate because that double damage can tear through Mercy's healing, both outside of Valkyrie and during it. Try to either play corners like this or support aggressive teammates that are pushing past it like this. Against Brigitte, she has two methods to cancel your res, her whip shot, which is actually kinda long, and a stun while ult is active. Besides that, you could watch out for her shield breaking, call it out to your team, and focus her with damage boost afterwards. Against Kiriko, enemies will likely play near Kitsune Rush, so make sure you keep a distance from it. Now you also might know that Suzu has a bit of a boop to it. Oh, I cancelled it! This can cancel a res, but it's not very consistent. It mostly seems to work when you res on the outskirts or are moving away from the direction it's being thrown from. Against Lifeweaver, my biggest thing is that his Tree of Life can block your line of sight and cause your beam to disconnect without you realizing, especially in Valkyrie. I do expect he will be buffed in future, but at the moment, Lifeweaver is pretty easy to bully due to his lack of damage and big hitbox. Damage boost your flying heroes that he can't do much about, or even Glock him if he's out of position. Also remember that you can use his petal platform, and sometimes it can be pretty good if you just left it off to the side. Against Lucio, keep his position in mind when you're planning to res. Try to watch out for him using his boop first, then go for it. During Valkyrie especially, you can sometimes fight Lucio's boop by starting your res close to the center or with the soul just behind you, then facing his direction and moving towards him. Also, Mercy can be kinda weak to rush comps where Lucio speeds his team into yours. With this, I usually either try to damage boost my long range DPS or just switch off Mercy. Against Moira, your healing completely negates the damage of her primary fire, so look out for her sucking your team off. Some Moira players, mid to low rank ones especially, are really bloodthirsty when it comes to Mercy. They have this mindset of, well, no one else is gonna get her, guess I gotta do it. Because of her generous lock-on, high mobility may not be as helpful as positioning behind your team and being able to break line of sight. This also extends to Valkyrie and Coalescent since again a lot of Moira players will happily target just you. Against Mercy, you are the best at pointing out her mistakes, like when she's out of position with GA on cooldown, which you should point out for your team. Besides that, I really try to push damage boost harder than enemy Mercy because her healing isn't great against large chunks of damage, and I'm not afraid to match Valkyrie either. Against Zenyatta, keep in mind you can physically see which ally Discord Orb is attached to, so watch out in case they need extra attention. Although if it's placed on you, remember that it comes with mini wall hacks that Zen can ping to his team. Because of this, I'll be a bit wary about positioning in cramped doorways like this in case I get jumped and body blocked in them. And that is all from me. Feel free to subscribe, check out my Discord, or follow me on TikTok if you want your Mercy tips not in 20-minute chunks. Thank you so much for watching and have a nice day.